revenge of the ego. Yes, the ego will take revenge on you whenever you try and break free from the control that has been imposed and designed within the system. The ego, which is what you are designed as, will take revenge and will take you on a path where you will be facing the point that you attempted to use to gain your freedom. You will face this point to such an extent that you will never go there again. It will take revenge on you. The ego knows everything about you, all your secrets, all your thoughts, knows how to activate you energetically, resonantly, how to design your path within the system, because it is part of the system. It is a living system, the ego. It's much more advanced than what you are, because you are completely abdicated everything in this reality to the system, and there's no life left. You're just an observer, and as an observer you are purely only assisting the ego to close any and all doors that you may consider in your observation. So the observer as such is of great help to the ego in preparing the revenge, so that when the revenge takes place, when you take that tumble, when the ego makes sure that you will remain within the system and give up on what you could possibly be and embrace the system and just live and make money and survive and just say it's human nature and it's supposed to be this way. For the ego to get that revenge, to get you to that submission, it used the observer to make sure that there is no mistakes, to make sure that it covers all bases, so that you inevitably accept the system and what is here now as all there is. And then the ego has taken its ultimate revenge. So live here as breath, because as breath the ego has got a problem, because the ego is based in energy. So as breath you are constantly disconnecting and causing the energy not to create a flow and eventually a path. So you are consistently interfering in any form of creation that may come from the ego, and so you are taking revenge on the ego, because the ego can only move in energy. So those that believe in energy, what do you know? They are the ultimate egos, super egos. The ego has already taken absolute revenge on them, and they are screwed, and they are part of the props in this reality to try and keep you fucked, just as fucked as they are, and to make sure that you do not get out of this. Because remember, the problem that you face is that if you die, it is really too late. Why is it too late? Because by the time you die and you have not created you as an actual life force, you will not continue, because the you have created is energy-based only, not life force-based, and therefore will end when the physical body ends. And the revenge of the ego is to make you believe the energy is actually real, when that is not so. And if you've bought into that, the ego has taken its ultimate revenge to prove that the system is superior, and you have been discontinued. So more on the revenge of the ego. For instance, you meet someone and you are absolutely feeling that this is the right person. You all work so well together, it just fits, you can communicate, and it's all just working extremely well. And then something happens. The ego is patient beyond belief. It first insert a thought, just one thought. It insert an event. It insert a point where you are not completely here. And slowly but surely you start to doubt if this is the person, if this is the place. You start to retract yourself. You start to focus on other things. You start to feel like you're cramped. You start to feel like there's not enough space. You start to feel like you've made a mistake. Slowly but surely you stop to participate. You're not so honest anymore. You're not so intimate anymore, and it grows. And then you start to play games, because when you keep yourself busy, and you get angry when you're challenged about playing games, and you say, but I have a choice, and your choice comes in. And all the while the ego has been creating itself, and you have become it completely, and the ego has taken its revenge. And that singular moment from where you were certain that this is the right person has turned in total resentment, and you just want to get away and justify it and place all the beautiful reasons and place the knowledge out there that you're an intellectual person that's acting in the right way, and this is the best thing. We shouldn't be together. We should walk our own paths. But that was not what happened in the beginning, when that singular connection was formed. The really only true moment in the whole relationship was destroyed through the revenge of the ego. Well, I know many people that's gone through this and still are stuck in their ego completely, without realizing that they missed it all. Remember, the moment of truth in this reality is very few and far between. If you have a singular moment, I had a singular moment, which was the connection, and I knew that was the connection. I had to do everything to make sure that connection remains clear. And that's what got me through. So if you don't take that connection, when you find it, and I mean it's not easy to find it, it's very difficult to find it, and that connection stands for what's best for all, and you make sure you keep that connection going, because that makes you really strong. You have found your place, but then make sure that the ego do not take its revenge, because it will annihilate you and isolate you, and make sure that you in the end will turn on all of those that initially you stood by. And you know what? You are not equal to your ego. It is superior in every way. You can only beat the ego through breath, not through knowledge or intellect, because it is superior in all aspects in knowledge and intellect. You only can do it in groups as well, when you form a real relationship and you stick to that. Stick to breath and make sure that ego do not take its revenge, and make sure that you do not get through and birth yourself as life. So stop, reevaluate, self-forgive, become self-honest. And if you have fucked up your opportunity, there will be another. It just takes time, because you have lost some faith in yourself once you realize to what extent the ego actually controls you. So then you have to be a bit more careful, because you're in a reality where you are not the master, you are not in control, and you don't know everything that's here. You are in a very limited frequential band with very little and openings to get out of it. Unless you stand together, you won't make it. More on the revenge of the ego. So another way the ego will take revenge is through money. The ego obviously focus on that which represents energy, that which represents the construct and the formulation of itself, which is money, that you see in your corporate worlds, in your capitalism, in your advertising, in the way goods are distributed and sold, in the way one must have a job to actually be anything in this world. To have value, you must have money. So this whole monetary principle, which is the currency of the energy of the ego, is then utilized to take and make sure that you do not question the system. So that if you question the system, everyone around you will suddenly shut you out and refuse to help you, because there will be a resonant fear within them that maybe the reason why there is no money is because it's justified. Meantime, it's the ego that has trapped you. The revenge of the ego is the absolute fear of losing your money, so that you will never actually support anything that is real in this world. You'll only support ego, because money equals ego. Unless one change that connection and make sure that money equals life and make your decisions according to that, the ego will always take its revenge with money, and you will be its instrument. Make sure that what you do with money, you do that to bring about a system of life on earth, a system of equality, a system of equal money. Every single penny you have, make sure, because anything you hide, the ego will take revenge with and use it against you. And that is really not a nice experience. More on the revenge of the ego. For instance, you have this whole point of that this reality is an illusion. We're all going to die and dissolve into nothingness anyway, right? So that this dissolving into nothingness is dissolving the ego. Yes, it dissolves the ego, because you only exist as ego. Ego is the manifestation of energy in a process of experience, in a process of polarity, in a process of action-reaction. And life is apparently be defined as that. That's the ultimate revenge of the ego, creating the illusion that life is energy, is polarity, is action-reaction, is emotion and feeling. It's done it brilliantly. The whole point was to actually trap you in a self that is without responsibility, that only act on the influences that direct it, instead of actually standing for what's best for all in life, to prove one thing, that there is no responsible being on earth or in heaven. Fascinating. It managed to actually prove that the system, as energy is superior, it can control the best amongst us, unless we obviously are better than that. We'll find out, won't we? At the moment it's not going too good, is it? Because so many that should have been real masters here on earth that support those with lesser design, like plants and animals, they are equal to us, but they're a lesser design model to support them and truly be what a god should be, someone that uplifts and support. What did we do? We seek our own satisfaction, because apparently we were not good enough. Revenge of the ego. Oh, hail ego, the greatest creation we could ever come up with. So, on the revenge of the ego, in terms of experiences, understand that experiences are designed by the ego to make sure that you do not ask questions. It's designed. We're not even going into the greater design. We're just going into the interactive design of experience, where one will make your decisions based on your experience and not based on what's best for all. And that simple point, the ego is dominant. Because if you had no ego, you would, regardless of what happens in terms of experience, you will always choose what is best for all, because you are free, and therefore your free choice is dominant and you choose what's best for all. But have a look, ego got you to believe that free choice means that you can choose whatever is best for you, And you can use excuses and justifications like experience and all kinds of excuses to justify your right to have free choice. Have a look how subtly this deception operates. Instead of realizing that free choice is actually you being free to always choose what's best for all and never be influenced by anything. But what have you come to believe about free choice? Just prove that the ego took its revenge and you have already fallen. More on the revenge of the ego. The ego uses one fear extensively well. It is the what if fear. Because it comes and it says what if. So that you always will end up choosing the point that will support you instead of the point that will support everyone. Because what if they don't return the favor? What if it goes wrong? What if? Once we realize that when we all act as one, as equal, here, absolutely as neighbors, supporting only the highest outcome mathematically for all at all times, nothing can fuck with us. But if you don't, the ego is taking its revenge. Who are you, real or ego? It's so easy to see, isn't it? Revenge of the ego, I mean, just to really assist in the relationships. In the relationships you will have only one connection. If it is something like love or energy, you're not at the right place. Your connection must be one that confirms to you and that you both can see that your togetherness makes you both stronger. It's that making you both stronger. That is where you start to really fuck with the ego, and where you can take your revenge. That means you can now change this whole thing of being a slave into something that's best for all. Yes, you're going to face every possible thing from the ego to try and break up your agreement. And therefore it is important that you develop a effective physical sexual expression, and that you develop intimacy and communication extensively, and that you make sure you breathe, and that you make sure you stick to the point that makes you both stronger, and that point that you're both stronger must show in everything you do. So you must then become more effective because you're together. You must be able to do, for instance, more vlogs, write more because you're together, more expressive, more revolutionary in your insights. If those things don't happen, I mean, and you're going into the ego and you're spending lots of time in developing a feeling relationship, that's pointless. You're going nowhere. It mustn't diminish you. It must not remove and retract you from what you're here to do. It must enhance it so that your complete dedication immediately shines through in every breath. Then you start looking at, maybe I'm at the right place now. But if your ego starts to intervene and you diminish your participation and you start to try and please each other, problem, revenge of the ego is here. Run while you can, before it's too late, because if the ego has taken you over, you'll be isolated forevermore. It is the worst place you could ever be in, where the ego has taken complete possession and you have no relationship with anyone. You are completely alone, just in your knowledge and thought and your idea about life, and you have no one with whom you can connect for real. Then you are isolated in ego, completely fucking. The ego took its revenge and you are the convict of your convictions. Now even the animals will be experiencing the revenge of the ego, because the animals are now also developing egos, which is fascinatingly incredible as they go through their experiences. So I suggest one realize that there is a lot of change already happening and a lot more will happen. Now, as an example, for instance, let's look at the Timeless story. I mean, the videos are there of the Timeless story. You must really investigate this. So Timeless made a choice, and that Timeless choice was made after the soul construct was already removed, when everybody for a moment had the right, call it the right, it was agreed everybody decide on their own incarnations. And she incarnated into Timeless, and as Timeless, to overcome an issue with self-harm, so self-mutilation, self-abuse. And decided to incarnate the lady as a dog called Timeless here. And what happened? The ultimate abuse. Revenge of the ego was still manifesting, because everyone in heaven was the creation of the energy from earth as the soul, and therefore were egos. And that's why they all forgot. And as soon as the soul was removed, and what is that place's name where all the memories are stored? Akashic records. As soon as that was removed, and there was no access to that anymore, everyone in heaven started forgetting fast, because who they were weren't real, just egos. Egos requires memories. Memories brings revenge. Vengeful memories are existing where there is no forgiveness for real. Memories are existent where there is no love for real. Memories are existent where there is no intimacy for real. Memories are existent where there is no life for real. Memories are the tools used by the ego to take revenge. And even in heaven, it was a tool of revenge, and trapped beings in lives that is unspeakable, where they have to pay and fight. The whole idea that there apparently something wrong with them. But they've created it themselves, they've allowed it themselves, they've allowed it, so they're not realizing the ultimate equality. There is a lot of work ahead to end the revenge of the ego. If you look at the world, just watch the news, watch the television, and you'll have so many opportunities to make vlogs and blogs. Write if you can every day. Take this revenge of the ego apart. Show what you understand. Participate at the utmost that you can. Make it your objective to leave at least 10,000 documents and 10,000 videos, so that if you fail, there is a record for the next person and the next and the next, because the ego is so amazing in its effectiveness that the likelihood that we'll fail is always greater than the likelihood that we will solve this problem in one life. That still doesn't mean we should give in to the ego, does it? Make sure you show who you are. That is why we have to be strict at all times, disciplined, and not allow in our midst people that are not standing absolute. So if you find someone who's not standing absolute, share it with the group. Let's confront the person, and if they don't stand, let them go. Open a door, close a door. Because otherwise the ego will take revenge once again. Person can only make sure that you are not possessed by the ego by communicating openly to those that walk with you all the time, so that your words can clearly show who you are and where you stand. If you are a so-called silent participant, you are in fact a danger, because you are controlled by your ego, and your ego is creating some forms of fears of why you shouldn't blog or vlog, because somebody is going to judge you. They're not. That's just your ego fucking with you and you're letting it happen. I mean, who the fuck are you? Are you life or are you just ego? Stop. You're going to have to stop to get out of this trap, and you're trapping yourself. That's ego. Make sure you are not the one that remain trapped as this ego. Because the longer you remain trapped, the longer your journey. You decide the length of your journey through postponement. Make sure you do not postpone your action. Live here as breath, and every breath now. Because the moment you don't, the moment you isolate yourself as ego, the moment you're alone as ego, you're the problem, and your process is equal to the length of you allowing yourself to be trapped as ego. Must be, otherwise you will never know if you can get out, will you? More on Revenge of the Ego. I mean, wouldn't you absolutely love this? I mean, animals, their intellect is a measure in terms of their effectiveness to deceive their prey or deceive their mate or deceive their opposition. And who's the ultimate deceiver in this? The ultimate animal? The human. And who got away with this as an actual acceptable construct and a way of life? The ego. And there, in a simple point, through evolutionary means, by getting you to accept that, you're accepting evolution, you're accepting that you are an animal, and that you are in fact intellectual, and that your intellect is based on deception, and you're fucked forever, because you can't get out unless you let go of all of this and forgive it and stop your belief, because by your faith has you been convicted, and only by your faith will you be saved. What does that mean? Unless you stand in the faith that all is one and equal here, doing what is best for all until it is manifested, you will not be saved by your faith. And by faith alone will you be able to achieve it, breath by breath. I mean, Jesus' words were specific, but the ego took its revenge. You're fucked now. A lot of work ahead. Let's see if you have the faith. Revenge of the Ego obviously used money to the utmost, because money is in essence the absolute design of all movement in this reality. Without money you don't move. Without money you're stuck. With money you can do anything. It is the tool of movement, and it's the tool of ego, because it's determined purely according to money who you are and what you are rightfully able to do in this reality. So how do one fuck with the ego in one go? Equal money. With equal money you fuck the ego and you take revenge on the ego. Will it be difficult because you are addicted to many things? Obviously. Will it be difficult because you have defined yourself by money? Obviously. But with equal money, one remove the primary fears and make it possible for an absolute resurrection of man. I am the life and the resurrection that becomes possible through equal money, practically. When use the message of Jesus, don't use Jesus. I mean, that was not his intent. It was his message, how to practically resurrect man as neighbor, as equal, as life here. Equal money is the way. You can investigate this, it's mathematically proven. You don't need more than the math. You just need to get rid of your ego. Otherwise, the ego's revenge will take its toll, and you will pay with your life in the second death. That is the death after the physical death. Yes, there is such a death. unfortunately there has to be, because there are some that is so stubborn that will not give up their egos at all, and therefore we had to draw a line to end this abuse. But everybody's got a chance, that's why we're still here. Use your chance. Don't abuse your chance. Self-forgiveness, self-honesty, common sense. Bring about change, make it possible, and prove that within limitation you can live as a responsible being, that you can love as a responsible being, that you can give as a responsible being, that you can be the one that lead a life that is worthwhile even in limitation. You prove that and you'll be free from ego. We're waiting for you. We will help where we can, but there is an end. You know that. You've wished it upon others many times through your ego. Unfortunately, what you wish upon another also becomes your own transcendence. You have to face it yourself. Care for what you wish for. Because there is no God but man. Man is God. And therefore you have the power to even wipe yourself out. Isn't that fucking funny? Now more on the revenge of the ego, let's look at the interesting thing about UFOs. You know, who promoted UFOs most in this world over many years very effectively was Scientology. It's part of their process. And strange enough, all the anonymous egos that attack Scientology, claiming there's UFOs and so on, are actually the result of Scientology. Scientology got you into believing this stuff. And the ego will now feed your delusion, so you're going to have fascinating experiences, and to such an extent that you're even going to have some photographs. But what is photographs? But electrical magnetic light imprints, something that can easily be focused and created by the mind, which is an electrical magnetic light impulse machine. It gives it out and it receives it, and where necessary you'll be able to fuck with yourself. Revenge of the ego. Careful, because whatever you believe in, to a degree, at this stage, fortunately for you, will manifest. It will increase. There's going to be many changes in this world as the ego take revenge and manifest itself into nature as well. You're going to face the ultimate point of yourself. Why would you like to be important? Why would you like to have fame? Why do you want to be special? Why can't you, just who you are, be equal and one, special enough, live a life fulfilled and complete, here, intimate, trustworthy, confident, enjoyment? Why can't you be the one that interacts as an equal with everything that is here? Why do you need something else to apparently make you worth more? Do you really need Anu? Do you really need Jesus? Do you really need God? You don't. That's all revenge of the ego. Careful, because when the ego takes revenge, it will make you think about it, and then you are not breathing, because your thoughts will generate energy, which is the substance from which ego is made. And when there is enough energy, you will be possessed by your ego, and you will be no more, because you will believe it is you, while it is just energy you created with thought. That's the machine. Organic robot. I mean, you have directed the energy that you should have directed to making this world a better place, to your mind to create an ego. How fucked up is that? The revenge of the ego is the revenge of the individual against the group, because the group doesn't make the individual important enough. But I mean, realize the simplicity of it. If every individual makes the group, and each part of the group, the most important part, each one will be recognized individually as important. And then this incessant search to reason and meaning and purpose will be no longer necessary, because you'll be able to live and fulfill yourself and live with trust and enjoyment and fulfillment and completeness, because as a group, as one, you're complete. Understand, the revenge of the ego is the revenge of the individual, is your fear that somehow everything is meaningless. You are making it meaningless because you are not giving meaning to everything, which includes yourself. Which means the only way you can find meaning is if everything has equal meaning. Stop the revenge of the ego. So the revenge of the ego is based on the principle of having first before you give. Well, the key is one must give till everyone has. And in such a way of giving, one will eventually overcome everyone's fears and bring about a world system that is based on quality, equality, where life will have quality and thus equality, and each is giving to each other everything that can be given. And you have, in essence, a world of self-fulfillment. Self has fulfilled everything through giving. And that giving is an allowance. You allow others to have what you would like to have. First give to them, then you will receive. But what is the revenge of the ego? It says, no, you must first have before you give, because just now you give and you don't get. And you can't trust anyone else, so therefore make sure you first have, then you give. Capitalism, isn't it? Religion, isn't it? We go as far as having icons that died bloody deaths. Revenge of the ego is absolute brilliance of energy in control of its master. Energy in control of its origin. You see how bizarre that is, revenge of ego. So revenge of the ego, the ultimate is the revenge through sex. Because no one is ever really completely satisfied with their sexual experiences, and nobody wants to go to the point of intimacy that's necessary to develop a proper physical sexual expression. So therefore most of your existence as sexuality is in ego, that is in imagination, in hope, in want, in feeling, in thought, which is all ego-based. Instead of facing the thing directly and living effectively and making your reality real. Do what's best for you, what's best for all, and stop participating in ideas, projections, wants, desires, which is all of ego. But that's how the ego takes revenge of you, because in your imagination your sex is always better than in reality. Because in reality it takes time and practice. Imagination is immediate. So imagination is the ultimate revenge of the ego. And yet it's made this big thing. Whatever you can imagine, you can achieve. And that fucks with you even more. Revenge of the ego. Isn't it magnificent? The whole law of attraction is based on the revenge of the ego, on imagination. You imagine it and you can achieve it and you can create it. But space-time doesn't work that way. And then within the way it is within limitation, it doesn't work that way. But in imagination it does. And then the ego fucks with reality and you fuck it all up. Revenge of the ego. It's got you by the balls. Morality is ego. You know, you have the moralist to tell you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't swear, you shouldn't say fuck. But I mean, their foundation system from which they are speaking is fucked up. It's not what's best for all. It's not love thy neighbor. It is their belief system that is speaking. They're not even real. It's their ego spewing absolute atrocious bullshit. So, moralists, fuck you. This is your message to you, because all you are is fucking ego. Nothing else. You will not survive death. And I mean, moralists are all those that pray to Jesus, Muhammad, you name it, doesn't matter. You are fucked at death. You disappear, dissipate. Only that remains a stench as your body rots away, and that's it. Nothing more. The revenge of the ego, isn't it wonderful? There is only one safe space in all of this story of revenge of the ego, and that safe space is what's best for all. I mean, that was the fall of Anu, that was the fall of heaven, because they believed they were in a safe space called heaven. They had it all under control. Everybody was pre-programmed as souls. Everybody had their life, their meaning and reasons. So nobody needed to question anything. It was all with a great plan, the great outcome to return to God, to be eternally happy, fulfilled in the highest of heavens. But I mean, that was all just ego. You were all just fucked. And so the only safe space is the only place where nothing can touch you, where you are here eternally, is in and as equality, where equality is the ultimate presentation of life, there you can exist perpetually, eternally, and you're not subject to anything, because you are always the deciding factor. You have real free choice. You are the directive principle. You are the living life, God, eternity, infinity. You name it, you are everything. That is the point of equality. And there is no ego there, because then nothing is needed. Ego only exists where you believe there is something more or less, where there is a polarity. Good or bad, don't eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, because then you will surely die. Oh God. Yes, that is the revenge of the ego. You know, the forbidden fruit. But you can exist in polarity as the tree of life as well, as equality, through the process of giving the answers. The only answers on this world that you should listen to as a guideline is that which is practically equality, what is best for all. Those are the messages that you've led to yourself in another life, to try and remind you not to fuck it up again. Revenge of the ego. Can you beat it? Can you be it? Can you overcome this ego energy? The light, the light, the light. Yes, light workers. The light is the revenge of the ego. You've been fucked. And have a look how the vegans and vegetarians became part of this whole revenge of the ego thing, where you actually believe that you are saving something by not eating meat. I mean, what the fuck? You make a value judgment based on your faith and belief of what has more value, one thing over another. So an animal is more valuable than a plant. You'll eat the plant, and it must nurture you and keep you healthy. But you won't eat the animal because then you're killing something? How fucked up is that? Ego shit. Real evil. Real ego, vegans and vegetarians. I mean, your preference is okay, but don't make it a fucking religion, because then It's just ego. If you could, oh no, let's not even go there, because it is beyond your capacity to understand why vegetarianism and vegans and anything that makes one thing better than another, instead of coming forth with an answer that's best for all, is obvious fucked up egoistic bullshit. So make sure that you don't get trapped by the revenge of the ego, where you believe you are some holy fucking shit. Yes, even the Pope shits, and it's not holy shit. There are no holy shit. All shit is alive, just as you are alive, equally. You can speak to your own shit, do you know that? And whether it stinks, is yellow or is runny, it doesn't matter. It is still alive, equal to you. Yes. Careful for the revenge of the ego. You've been trapped, fucked. Between the ears, there's a fucked up space called your brain, your intellect. None of it of any value, because you are unable to understand the value that's here as life. You want to have your value system supersede what is here, what has existed long before you existed, the physical. Careful, revenge of the ego is here. No, like the ultimate revenge of the ego is to believe, for instance, that you have the right to portal, with the right to go and see what's going on before you make up your mind of what's real and what's not. What are you really saying? Look carefully. You already know what's going on. You already know the answer, or how to fix the problem in this world. And you still demand. You will not get anything. It's done. Everything has been stopped. You know how to fix the world, and if you don't, you will pay for it. That's the revenge of your ego. It's got you. The answer is much more simplistic than you could ever imagine. Because everything that you believe is real, your complete knowledge and intellect is all imagination. You are missing real life all around you. You're missing the fact that your total existence is underpinned by the resource of the physical, and that what you've made of it is very limited, and what you've given value, like the machines and the few things that you have here, your economic system and so on, it's nothing, because in one massive swoop the earth can take it all away, and there's nothing that you can do about it. You have created an egoistic system, disregarding your source, which is the physical. Careful for the revenge. Imagine if all the plants and the bugs and the flies and the animals must take revenge on mankind. Could there ever be sufficient forgiveness in the universe for what mankind has done? Careful for revenge of the physical. Careful for the revenge of ego. Because when it comes, understand, the control of the system is over. Anything is now possible. Hope that your example of forgiveness is sufficient, that you may be forgiven.